Thanks for hanging around. Very excited to bring you our next speaker, who is Kathy Meyerhofer. She's the Chief Sales Officer at Xometry, and she's going to be giving a talk entitled Building American Manufacturing Resilience. It's a very topical topic at the moment, that's for sure. So, Kathy, if you would like to just turn your cam on and your mic on, and you can join me on stage, please. And if you're having any troubles, I would just invite you up. So you should get a little invite notification from me.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction, Alex. Are we good? Can you hear me?
We are good. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I wish I always had that lovely accent to introduce me for every opportunity that I have to speak. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
So, it's great to be here today.
Good luck.
Thank you. It's great to be here today, and I appreciate you all, joining into this presentation. As the Chief Sales Officer for Xometry, which is the largest digital marketplace for the manufacturing industry, I'm privileged to lead a team of top sales professionals across the globe. All of us at Xometry, whether in sales, marketing, product development, or finance, come to work every morning with one objective in mind, and that is to champion the manufacturers who build the big ideas that move our collective world forward. It's an audacious task, but we're up for it. Because we're the largest digital marketplace in the industry, we have a front row seat to the emerging trends that are taking shape now, and which will define American manufacturing for the foreseeable future. Today, I'll bring you inside our tent. I'll share with you our hearings from our clients and our manufacturing partners, and I'll explain how those insights can shape our own actions, drive public policy, and recruit much needed talent, all in the name of building American manufacturing resilience. As we dive into our discussion today, I want to share a bit about me. I've spent my career at the intersection of technology and manufacturing. I started in the semiconductor industry, later moved into IT services, and ultimately ended up in manufacturing, beginning with Protolabs, which I benefited from a strong executive who just happened to be a woman. She made an indelible impression on me, and if you follow my LinkedIn, you'll see I try to champion my own female team members, as well as many others in the industry. I'm excited to be here today because I believe in our industry, in the power of 3D printing, and in the gift of mentorship. And I think together, we can all help build American manufacturing resilience. I want to begin by sharing results of an exclusive survey we produce every quarter with Forbes, the global media company, and Zogby Strategies, an international polling company. Our most recent survey tracks the sentiment of CEOs of more than 150 leading companies nationally that rely on manufacturers to produce the goods and services they bring to market. Issued just after the first of the year, our survey offers fresh insights into the decision-making of CEOs, and the results are encouraging. For starters, our proprietary Forbes Xometry Zogby survey reveals that more than half of the CEOs we surveyed have prepared plans to reshore their manufacturing operations. Of those, nearly 90% say they will do so this year. That's an incredible commitment by CEOs to building American manufacturing resilience. And they undertake their reshoring efforts. CEOs are investing heavily in their shops. They're automating where they can. They're investing in enterprise-wide software to digitize their workflows and produce more goods efficiently. And they're embracing emerging technologies like artificial intelligence to gain more insight and get a leg up on their competition. It's yet more good news for America's 600,000 manufacturers, the vast majority of which are small or mid-sized operations and heavily rooted in the communities where they're located. We know why CEOs are doing this too. The first is no big surprise. CEOs are looking to build locally resilient supply chains to protect against future disruptions. 90% of the CEOs in our survey say they expect supply chain concerns to continue this year and well into next year. And while CEOs are signaling that we're not yet out of the woods, they're also demonstrating resilience, making appropriate contingency plans to protect their businesses from future challenges. The second major reason driving the reshoring phenomena is a healthy belief that America's manufacturing industry is so robust and vast that it can help solve most, if not all, of the world's supply chain concerns. As I mentioned moments ago, there are more than 600,000 small and mid-sized manufacturers in the United States. It's an industry so vast that CEOs believe that these shops collectively can help solve most, if not all, of the world's supply chain concerns. If anyone's stat expresses faith in the strength of our domestic manufacturing, it is that one. The third reason, of course, is our national security and economic interest. With international conflict on the rise and much of the world on the cusp of ushering in exciting new industries, CEOs recognize that it makes sense to bring much of their manufacturing home. Their decisions are buoyed by major federal legislation, such as the CHIPS and Science Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, and the Infrastructure Law, all of which brings up another important point: the need for greater public-private partnership between local, state, and federal governments and manufacturers across the country. But more on that in a moment. Here's perhaps the most interesting point of all. Despite COVID, despite inflationary pressures, and despite international conflict, more than 95% of CEOs in our Forbes Xometry survey are optimistic about the future. 60% agree with the statement that, quote, the future is bright. And 35% said they see, quote, light at the end of the tunnel. Less than 5% believe our economy is, quote, still in darkness. But don't just take our word for it. S&P Global's flash manufacturing PMI released just this week inched up January to its highest amount in 3 months. Our survey in the S&P Global Monitor underscores that executives are stepping into the new year with a bit more confidence under their belt. All of this bodes well for American manufacturing, and it couldn't come at a more exciting time. For more than 3 centuries, American manufacturing has served as the backbone of our global economy. It has been, by definition and practice, weathered trade imbalances, protectionistic practices of other countries, and more. No sector in our economy has demonstrated 9 lives more than that of manufacturing, and the future appears bright. We're on the cusp of ushering in new industries, from aerospace and aeronautics and autonomous and electric vehicles to robotics and automation. American manufacturers are leading the way. American manufacturers lead the world in new processes like additive manufacturing. And American manufacturers are increasingly embracing a digital-first mindset. But to be sure, there are imminent and persistent challenges, and we must come together to overcome them. As we continue to build American manufacturing resilience, there are a number of strategies that I think that are important for us to pursue. The first is that we must push for and embrace public-private cooperation to drive as much needed investment in America's small and mid-sized manufacturers. While more shops are embracing digital-first tools to grow their businesses and drive efficiencies, a vast majority of shops lack requisite software to track their orders, increase efficiency, and expand their marketing efforts. What's more, they frequently lack much-needed capital to invest in automation and robotics that are necessary for them to compete on a global scale. Price is still king in decision making. And the best way for American manufacturers to drive down cost and ensure reshoring efforts stick is to invest in the tools, big and small, that drive efficiency. Over the last several years, we've seen an adoption of significant and meaningful legislation at the federal level intended to spur reinvestment in the industry. And yet more can be done to help shops embrace the automation and robotics necessary to compete on the global scale. We're eager to see the new Congress lean in and embrace stepped up public-private cooperation and investment in our manufacturers to ensure more goods are made here. It's both an investment in America and in our national security. As we reinvest in our manufacturing infrastructure, we must also find ways to make manufacturing sexy again. Long gone are the days of manufacturing as a male-dominated industry with dirty shops and antiquated equipment. Today's manufacturing facilities are high-tech showcases of American ingenuity with innumerable opportunities for professional career growth. Today's manufacturing facilities embrace new processes like additive manufacturing, and in some cases, employ robotics and other automated tools required to produce the goods at the heart of tomorrow's industries. It's up to us to, as our CEO, Randy Altschuler, would say, to quote, make manufacturing the new buzzword in tech, and we can. Or put another way, we must rebrand our industry and become evangelizers of all of the opportunities it offers. At no other time in history has manufacturing offered so many entrepreneurial and leadership paths as now. And that's particularly true for women, veterans, and members of underrepresented groups. The opportunities will only grow over time. It is estimated that as many as 2.4 million manufacturing jobs will go unfilled by 2030, the results of an aging workforce, an expanding economy, and other significant factors. And as the machinery in shops becomes increasingly sophisticated, our industry requires an increasingly skilled workforce. While public sentiment overwhelmingly supports vocational and trade schools, only about a third of all of its students routinely consider these post-secondary educational paths. We must do more to change the numbers and actively encourage students to pursue vocational careers. Too often, there's a stigma erroneously associated with our industry or vocational schools. Other times, students are dissuaded by the inability to secure student loans. All of this requires us to think through the steps we must take to ensure all who want to go to trade school have the opportunity to do so. At Xometry, we're doing our small part. When we went public last year, we created what's called a donor-advised fund to support scholarships for nearly 250 students in 6 key manufacturing states: Maryland, Kentucky, Wisconsin, South Carolina, New York, and Connecticut. While that might be a small number, we're hoping it has a great multiplier effect, like our industry itself. And if everyone did it, the effect would be tremendous. Economists estimate that every dollar spent in manufacturing is estimated to add $2.74 to the broader economy. Investing in our manufacturing facilities and in the people who will ultimately run our shops will produce dividends that shape our world to generations to come. And if we don't act now, our inaction will have an even greater consequence. Deloitte estimates that the existing talent shortage, if not addressed, could cost the economy $1 trillion by 2030. We can't afford to take that gamble. As leaders, each of us has the responsibility to champion others as well. To create real change, we must lead by example and offer our current workforce opportunities for upskilling and reskilling. Create internal career paths for our high performers, and ensure we're doing all we can to provide an inclusive culture. And be consistent advocates for our champions of DEI. These are just a few of the ways we can create a resiliency to sustain American manufacturing. Together, we can be forces of good, and together we'll all benefit from the significant multiplier effect that manufacturing offers. So I want to thank you for your time today, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much, Kathy. That was fantastic.
All right.
We've got a number of questions here, and
so Kathy Chen says, "Hi, Alex."
Hi. Yeah. So I'll read out the question, and feel free, anyone else, to put any more questions in there. We've got about 10 minutes to spare, so we can feel free to keep the conversation going. It was a really wonderful topic to talk about, Kathy, and really great pearls of wisdom in there. Thank you so much.
I didn't put this in there, but I do just want to share one comment. As somebody who's been recruiting for, almost 12 years for manufacturing, I've sometimes very often challenged to find women and people of diversity. But I've tried to be very purposeful about it. One of the things that I think, and I challenge any of the leaders to think about this. A very good friend and mentor of mine said this to me not long ago. He says, "Kathy, if we continue to put years of experience on things, we may be he goes, there weren't that many women in this, if you go back 5-10 years. And so I just want to make that comment about we do have to foster a lot of development in this for women and for other diverse races."
Yeah, absolutely. And there was actually a presentation in the previous block with Dawn Putney of Toolbox Creative, and she was talking about the ways in which we even advertise roles that will encourage certain groups to apply. And years of experience is one of those classic things that everyone says, you have to have a certain number of years of experience and even qualifications, because, when it gets down to it, it's we are pretty focused on credentials, in the Western world. And the thing is that you actually just have to take a step back and go, but what are the skills actually needed for this job that I need done? So just being very practical about it, and that the skills don't necessarily come from, a college education. So sometimes even just opening it up to a broader subset of people who've not gone through the college system will help you get to the person that you actually really need. So let's pile into those questions though. So first one from Kathy is, how can we promote upskilling and reskilling of our workforce? The labour shed doesn't look good for mid to advanced manufacturing skills. What can we do to encourage more funding for training?
Yeah, very important. I mentioned the six different vocational schools that we had extended grants to, or for scholarships. It was one of the things too that they said, hey, was now next year, perhaps you can help us, now up level the equipment that we have in what we're training our students on as well. We were very purposeful also about inviting local and state representatives, government representatives to those, and we made a big to-do about that as well. We need our local, state, and federal government helping us significantly in this. And, politics aside, this is so healthy for our economy. And I think that if we can continue to raise the flag and get the visibility on this and get the funding for it, and we can really start making an impact. I mean, we've done it before in a number of ways. I think that it also takes, it's incumbent upon us at this level to encourage it through our own, social media, through our own partnerships with the companies that we work with, and other ways that are kind of a groundswell type of activities in order to continue to promote it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually really, I'll get to some of these questions in a sec, but I'm really interested to hear more about your mentoring experience in your early career. Who were some of the people that really encouraged and inspired you in your early career?
I've had, some of my best mentors, have been people that I've worked for directly that were very encouraging. I come from a very large family, and I'm number 7 of 8. So I had an older sister who was about 10 years older than me, who really probably was one of my first, not just a mentor, but like a role model to me as well. And she was really early on, and that's how I got into the semiconductor industry. And that was always very impactful for me. And she was, very much encouraging about, again, another very much of a male dominated industry. And so I was fortunate so early on that I was confident to step into very male dominated industries, and then realizing how tech is so, there's so many cool things that just go on, but that financially those industries, the growth that happens in tech industries really caught my eye. So I always encourage people that I mentor, and I generally do one professional mentorship every year for somebody. But I also always encourage my leaders on my team to be mentors or to look for mentors as well. I think mentorship, especially in manufacturing, is absolutely critical for us to continue to drive the diversity that we need. And also just to, help to, that this is really of the future. It can really create some major growth paths for a lot of the people that we see talent in. So again, I always lead with that, with people who are asking questions about their career or where they should go. I am always like, you need a mentor. And mentorship takes time. And that's why I say I only generally do one like professional one every year, where I volunteer in order to support somebody. But obviously on the spot mentorship is really important. And I try to be a real proponent of our industry because, when I started at Protolabs years ago, in the recruiting piece, I heard from our recruiters, we would have women would say that it's not very glamorous. And I was like, glamorous? Like, we're sending people to the moon, we're doing, So I think it's really incumbent upon ourselves. And if we can you think globally, but you act locally. And the more that we can do that, we can really make change, especially for other people.
Yeah. From the outside looking in to Xometry, one of the impressions I always got was that Xometry takes DEI very seriously, and has really done that through a series of different programs. I know you mentioned the scholarship program, and one of the things I saw Xometry do, I don't even know if this is a question, but it's more just a comment, and I'd be interested to see how it's going, I guess, is that Xometry was very intentional about setting up scholarships, but with Black colleges.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly.
Where was that inspired from, and how is it going?
Yeah. And when again, this is just, my own personal commentary on is, after, several major issues that have happened in the past few years, and just some of the things with, around race and just the narrative, a lot of companies started putting up their diversity pieces like that. But I don't know how many were very intentional about it. And I think if it's really important for us, that you really have to vet out the organization that you're going to work for. Is it really intentional? I happen to work for a CEO who I can't say how my deep enough respect for him in terms of, Randy Altshuler is Jewish. He is married to a Chinese woman, an Asian woman. He has 2 children, and they have adopted an African-American son. If that doesn't spell, diversity and just like in the embracing of it, so he lives it every day of his life, and that type of top-down culture piece really permeates within the organization. So we do try to, he leads by example, and he just didn't put up a figurehead of a person that's a diversity officer. We really do try to embrace it.
Yeah. And I think you raise a really good point as well around, in the last probably 2-3 years, there's been a very concerted effort by a number of organizations around their diversity, being able to have, diversity programs, diversity metrics, and so on. But now we're a few years into it,
right?
And there is conversations happening about, people are being hired under these programs, and they're saying, well, this isn't the place that I thought it was, or there's not enough sort of systemic change within the organization to support those people as well. So yeah, it's been really great to see Xometry in the efforts that they're making, and being quite creative around looking at different strategies for enhancing DEI and within Xometry. I'm going to get to one of the questions by David Torres. He says, what new roles do you think are being created within digital manufacturing?
In terms of even like looking at high tech, I mean, obviously, programming development is, and which is it's significantly a high tech career. That is one where there is just a deficit of need across the board. Other roles, I mean, and I guess that's not necessarily being created, but just the need for it. There's actually kind of goes down to, there's another question like that's down there that around is, how can we change the narrative around automation will take our jobs? It's for every automation aspect that our manufacturing, the digital manufacturing initiatives are headed towards, are creating additional tech jobs that actually pay more than some of the traditional manufacturing jobs that are out there. And I would, so again, I think and it's the expansion that'll happen with 3D printing, the expansion just of the sophistication of how manufacturing will need to be up leveled with a lot of our manufacturing. We have my colleague in China who says, one thing in terms of the narrative piece about manufacturing is, like, in China, manufacturing is considered a high tech job. So, I mean, and it is. I mean, it is. Look what they've been able to do in terms of automation and efficiency, and to be able to, really secure such a vast amount of manufacturing across the country, and specifically from our own. So if we can actually help our manufacturers get to that point where they're up leveling, able to scale with the business that can be reshored through automation, still going to need people to run those machines. Still going to need people to get their word out that they have these capabilities. So I'm a true believer that it really is going to be the backbone of the United States going forward.
Yeah, and also things like AM Forward initiative has been announced by Biden. I think it was last May. Extremely relevant to what we're talking about today. I'm so sorry we're all out of time.